Okay, welcome ladies and gentlemen to Personnel Committee for July 11th, 2017. Hello, okay. I'm Alder Stoyer, I'm here. We have Alderman Moore and Alderman Slottick. Alderman Domain is excused. So we have an adoption of the agenda. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Move to, yeah, second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Number 3, approval of the minutes from the June 13th, 2017 meeting.
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passes. Number 4, consideration with possible action on request to fill the following replacement positions and all subsequent vacancies resulting from internal transfers. You could take both of these, or let's take one at a time. Tractor operator for Public Works.
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, next would be bridge tender for Public Works.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes. Number 5, consideration with possible action on a request by Alderman Nicholson to review all management positions in the city of Green Bay that were created since Mayor Jayden and Mayor Schmidt took office.
All right, well, I see that, I had provided a copy of this to Alderman Nicholson earlier, but in your packet, you'll see that that what we did was we put together a comparison of the positions, the management positions that existed in the year 2000 and compared them to 2017.
Right.
And so what the first page does is just give us a summary of what that comparison looks like. There were 109 positions in 2000 and 110 and a half in 2017. And I don't know what the fund sources were from 2000. That might be more, that could be interesting, because it seems to me that, like in transit, for example, those are not general funds, and you can see they increased theirs by 2 positions. But in 2017, there are 91.7 positions that come from general fund and 18.9 that come from other funding sources. So it might be like parking utility, or transit, or community development block grant, or what, your sewer, storm sewer stuff?
Okay.
Yeah, so those are, so they are allocated out to some other funds. And then in the detail is in the attached pages. So you can see administration, that's finance, but it's really called administrative services. And that shows what their listing was for in 2000 and what's in 2017. And then that shows you by position where the funding comes from for that position in 2017.
It's very comprehensive. I think initially, Lynn, when Alder Nicholson asked for this information, what did you talk with him about on this? Was it more or less just for informational purposes, or what was his?
He just, as far as I know, and I'm speaking for him, he said that he was looking for it, so he wanted to have it prior to the budget time. So he just wanted to, I think, see what the
Okay.
budgeted positions were and where they had increased.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to receive and place on file the
Second.
report.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, thank you, Lynn. All right. Next, consideration with possible action on Alderman Nicholson's request to review the reasons why there was a presence of a Green Bay police officer at city council meetings. I talked to Alder Nicholson today. He wants to put it on hold.
Make a motion to hold till next meeting.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all opposed? Okay, that passes. Number 7, update on request by Alderman Nicholson to combine Green Bay Housing Authority planning with the Brown County Housing Authority and to review the city's options, advantages, and disadvantages with this possible consolidation.
Cheryl Renier Wig was going to just provide a verbal update. Okay, Robin?
Yes,
Robin?
I'm here to provide a verbal
Okay.
update.
Robin, you want to come up?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Given that Alderman Nicholson is not here and he's the one that made the request,
Right.
how do you want to go ahead with this?
I don't think they really have the report, so she could just give you a quick little update as to where they are in that process.
I'd be fine with that.
Yes,
Just if you can give me
I don't have any specifics, but I just wanted to report that this was brought to both of the housing authorities, the Green Bay and the Brown County Housing Authorities, at their respective June meetings. And they have asked for further information, including a list of the pros and cons of doing this merger, as well as a discussion of what each housing authority is responsible for. So we are in the process of creating those documents, and we will be bringing them back to each housing authority at the July meeting. And if you wish, we could come back at the meeting to this committee in August then for more
Okay,
information.
yeah, if you could have that information.
This is being reported back to the committee that Andy sits on, right? He sits on
Andy sits on the Brown County Housing.
Brown County Housing, and it's being reported back to him regardless.
He's
there.
gonna get his information.
We could
Alright.
just receive this and place it on file.
I agree.
That sounds good.
I'll make
Okay.
that motion.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye, thanks. Thanks, Robin. All right, next, 8. Consideration with possible action on Alder Moore's request to survey mayor salaries in other Wisconsin municipalities, and suggestion that consideration be given to establishing a competitive salary for the mayor by increasing the salary as follows. I could read each one of these. There's 5 bullet points. One would be to increase by $11,000 on May 1st, 2019 for an annual salary of $93,535. Next would be an increase by $11,000 on May 1st, 2020 for an annual salary of $104,535. Number 3 would be the increase by $11,000 on May 1st, 2021 for an annual salary of $115,535. Next would be an increase by $11,000 on May 1st, 2022 for an annual salary of $126,535. And then effective following the 2019 mayoral election, the mayor's salary will be increased annually based on any general increase provided to general municipal employees on the date the increase is provided. Anyway, Alder Moore, do you have anything to?
I brought this forward as a, kind of combined with item 9, which was seeing about structuring and adding a staff position as a city administrator to see if we could avoid doing a raise by splitting some of the duties. Looking at what the cost of adding the administrator would be, or city manager style or city administrator, would be, there is a far greater cost savings by giving a raise to the mayor as opposed to bringing in the next position. Director Boland's done a ton of work and sent me a lot of information on this to look at as we're going forward. But one of the things relating to this item with the raises is I remember back in 1996, sitting in my American Government and Politics class at UW Green Bay and having Mayor Jaden come and talk about, and what a negative guy he was, about how big of a pay cut he took to take the position of mayor compared to what he was doing before. And talking about the duties of the mayor compared to his duties in his previous job. And I mean, it was interesting to sit there as a 19-year-old and listen to the mayor complain. But what really kind of gets to me on that is when you look at the last few elections, who's running for office. And I mean, it seems to be it's mostly retirees, occasionally business owner, other politicians that maybe are in their positions as a stepping stone into this position. But where are the community leaders? Where are the business, big business owners? Where are other people in the community? Where's your developers and your investors and people that have a lot broader background? I think increasing the salary to at least get competitive, it'll help to give the voters maybe more options. I think more people will come forward and run for office. Money is obviously always an incentive. Seeing how far off we were, $44,000, to get us back into a mid-tier compared to where other mayors and administrators are already getting paid now. I think that's a big chunk to take. I had proposed splitting this up over 4 years and doing $11,000 a year to get into a competitive rate. The more I thought about it, I didn't want to commit this out 4 years out though. What I would propose, and I do feel that this position does deserve a pay raise. What I'd like to propose is 2019 and 2020, which gets us into midterm for the next mayoral election, and it also brings a new council. I would be good proposing a $22,000 raise spread out over the next 2 years, or from 2019 to 2020, and putting in the annual raises, whether it be 1%, 2%, whatever city-wide raise there is, and then just let the next council decide if they want to extend this out and bring it more competitive. So I would make that motion that we do increase the mayor's salary by $22,000 spread out over the next 2 years, and put the position eligible for the annual salary increases.
I'm just
And all of
saying-
that would become effective after the next mayoral election?
Yes.
Because you can't
Right,
Right.
establish it while they're in office?
yes,
I will
exactly.
second that for discussion
Okay.
only.
All right, that's fine. Tom, do you have something?
Yes, Alderman Moore, you referenced becoming competitive. Competitive with who? Who are we competing with?
I think why did I say competitive? Oh, competitive with other municipalities as far as where their mayoral salaries are. That's what I was looking at it as how do we compare in our mayoral position to our neighboring municipalities? And Lynn, I think you gave me pretty much everything across the state, if I remember right, in that document.
I gave you, I think that the document,
17 on it.
for 17.
the
Okay.
attached one, yeah, is the 17 that have mayors and I think city administrators or managers,
Right.
just to show what was happening in those jurisdictions. Well, they don't all, but that also does include them, so. I guess it's the top 17 that are highest population.
We're third in population, we're eighth in salary. I think $22,000 gets us back up into that third in population, third in salary. And I understand there's different cost of living. I mean, it costs more to live in Waukesha than it costs to live in Green Bay, Wisconsin. I understand that. But I do think that if we want the cream of the crop leading the city, and we want, our constituents to have a good base of candidates to do their work and their research on, then we need to make sure that that position has got enough incentive that someone's going to come and run.
Lynn, can I ask, I mean, there has not been a raise in the mayor's salary over the last 10 years, correct?
Right, I think it was 2009,
Or maybe
give or take, or 8, I think it's in
8
here.
years. Okay.
What's
And was that, and I wasn't on council at that time, but can you refresh us as far as why
2010.
that's the reason, or what happened there? Why we haven't had
It
a
was
raise?
prior to my getting here,
Okay.
but there was action that was taken that, and I think it was in 2009, that's when all the economy things were probably happening. I'm just guessing that might have been associated with it because it certainly was happening in other places. And there was action taken to freeze the mayor's salary and not to give him an increase in 2010. I think he must have had one in '09, must have been his last one. He was scheduled to have something in 2010. They took action not to go forward with it, and then nothing happened, and nothing happened prior to the most recent election. There was just something that came forward in terms of anything with the salary increase. I believe that's probably what happened in that 2010 timeframe.
That just seems, I won't say unusual, but it is maybe a little different, 8 years. I mean, doesn't matter what position you have in the city, there's always going to be some incremental increase, or should be, I feel.
Yeah, and the action has to be taken before the election, so once that happened, it had to sit until the next election. When the next election came up, there was nothing that was brought forward in terms of doing anything with that salary or raised about that. And we don't have anything that says that they would have at least received general increases. I think I did a comparison of what would have happened, and probably had he received the general increases, that would have increased it by about $15,000, I recall. So even if that had been in place, that would have happened, but that wasn't in place either.
Well, this conversation might pick up a little bit too with the next item, because, some of the things I want to talk about
Yes.
kind of tie in with that, so.
As a matter of fact, I think we need to somehow either combine them or get on to the next one, because.
Yeah, because
I
we're going to be
fran- I
going, we're going to be
frankly
flip-flopping.
don't think we should be discussing significant increases in the salary for the mayor if we're next going to discuss potentially relieving them of many of the duties.
Joe, how do you feel about that?
I was just going to move
You
a
know-
motion out on the next item and just receive it and place it on file and do away with it. But, I mean, if you want to discuss that, and
Well, I think there's some information that's come forward, and
can we
Well-
just table this item until we discuss item 9? I make a motion that we table this item until after we discuss item 9.
all right.
If I second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. That is tabled. We will move on. Number 9, consideration with possible action on Alder Moore's request to change the city's method of governance by adding a city manager or city administrator and establishing duties and pay for the mayor and city manager or city administrator to be effective with the next mayoral election. All right. Joe, if you want to start us off, and we'll
Well,
chime
yeah,
in. We'll chime in.
Again, I mean, we've got the documentation in front of us showing these larger cities with no mayor or a part-time mayor with salaries that are exceeding 125,000 and up. Up as high as 162,000, all cities with significantly less area, population, city staff, budgets. So my motion here is just receive and place on file this item.
Okay. Well, Tom, you have some things. I'd like to
Yes,
chime in a
I
little.
guess,
Well, second for discussion.
You second it for discussion?
Why don't you second?
I'll second for discussion.
All right.
Okay.
Go ahead, Tom.
I guess I'm curious as to why you want to receive and place on file versus have some discussion about whether it would be advantageous to have a professional administrator running the day-to-day operations.
Yeah, we could look at it. I don't want to spend the money.
Well,
Simple as that.
You just think it'd be too costly?
Yeah. And this is salary. This isn't even counting any benefits or anything. You're adding a staff member.
Mhm.
So now add
Well-
benefits on there. It's a significant cost.
Let me ask, would you be open to the consideration, given the reduction in workload, of reducing the mayor's salary if you added this administrator?
Well, as you can see with these other ones, these salaries of these mayors are $17,000, $23,000. I mean, if you're talking about putting our mayor position and giving him a $60,000 pay cut, and then adding another position at 140 grand a year plus benefits, you're still paying much more, in this way, and you're adding more government, another layer of government.
I don't know if it's another layer, Joe. In some ways, it may provide for a level of professional continuity in the administrative role that filling that role with a political position doesn't provide.
And it sounds like the administrator position comes under the council, at least in De Pere it does. So De Pere has a mayor and a city administrator. I haven't had a chance to really speak with them a lot on that, but I've been to several of their meetings over time, and it seems like an interesting dynamic that it seems to be working there. And they've been doing that for a while. So
Like I say, I mean, add a population of 24,000
Right.
people and a cost of 155 grand plus benefits. So
No,
that's, look, I mean, we want to restructure this and reassign job duties and stuff, make some major overhaul. I'm certainly open to listening to it. I just,
I
the
think.
cost prohibition on this, the whole reason I brought it up in the first place was looking at how we can try to, first avoid the raise for the mayor and see if there was a way to combine some different positions and bring those costs down. But I wasn't sold on it with any of the information I got here from HR.
Okay, so you're not really backing this any longer.
Now, I wouldn't put my name behind it. I'd certainly listen to it moving forward. I'm not saying my mind's completely made up. We'd have to have staff go through and determine job duties, and, I mean, it's a lot of stuff to pour on right away.
What was your reaction to the staff work that showed that there's even a council manager option if you go to chapter 64 of the statutes?
We used to have one of those, didn't we?
You mean a city manager?
No, council manager. Wasn't there
Council
No.
slash-
council, wasn't there a
slash-
council staff member? Nennick would know.
Well, well, when I worked here, my title was assistant to the mayor and council.
Okay.
And it is kind of an interesting thing to see how this is, how the thought is revolving. My predecessor had a title of administrative officer of the city, and he had a separate budget from the mayor's office. He had a secretary of his own, he had a travel budget of his own, office supplies and so on. And he never had quite the authority that a city administrator like in De Pere would have with a part-time mayor, that kind of thing. But I think they were trying to get to that point, and never did. But I was kind of staff for the council and mayor, and when I left, I guess that was all changed, and so there really is no council staff since then.
Well, okay, thanks, Dave. Well, I was intrigued by
I see what you
reading.
mean by
Go-
council manager again, yeah, okay. That form of government.
Right, the council manager option that you list here
Yeah.
is an entire revamp in the form of city government.
Absolutely.
It says it's specified by state law
Right.
that you have 7 council members,
Correct. Who are elected at large.
and you don't have a mayor. You have the council president wears the title of mayor.
Correct. Yes, it's completely it's a complete
Right.
change of the government format. You're correct, yes.
And what communities in Wisconsin have that particular type right now?
I don't know if
'Cause
I
I
distinguish
was
that or
looking
not.
through
I'd
that.
have to go and find out, but I know, for example, Oshkosh has a city manager. Must only have the city administrators on here. And probably only because the others don't have, oh, here you go, second page, I have to look at, did this some time ago. So Beloit, see, and they don't have a city, they don't have a mayor, that's why we ended up with 17 and not, that's where my number came from. De Pere has a city administrator, there's their salary, but Beloit is a city manager, Eau Claire is a city manager, Fond du Lac, Janesville, Oshkosh, those have city manager forms of government. The city manager form of government in Wisconsin, because it doesn't elect a mayor, in other states, their laws are slightly different on that, and they said that that probably has prevented some jurisdictions from going ahead with that. I know that La Crosse recently looked at the city manager form of government, but it did not pass the vote. So they did look at that form. That was in the last couple of years. That's because I talked to the gentleman who was the professor at Oshkosh who works in the public administration area.
Well, Joe, I think when you first brought this up, I mean, of course, you're very much looking at bottom line for costs and et cetera, so I understand that very well. But I still am intrigued by the various options that are out here, and I would hate to see that discussion just die.
I'd be fine if we wanted to send it back to staff, as long as we get staff some direction here. They've been working on this for me for almost 3 months.
Yeah,
So, or close to 3 months, I think.
Well, at one point, I had thought about, and the gentleman who was the professor at Oshkosh, he used to be a city manager, a county manager, and then he became a professor, is now retired, and he's over in the Chippewa area, but he said if, we could make arrangements, he might be able to come back and make a presentation, which might be interesting to hear from someone who's been in that business, but that's what he does. In fact, the reason I know about La Crosse is because he went there, because he met with various groups in the city and things like that were looking at that. So he may be someone, I'm just giving that as an
Certainly invited.
opportunity,
Well,
someone
yes,
that
I would.
could provide that kind of data and information, who has that,
we have a
knowledge.
little bit of time on this, we don't have a budget for a little while.
Right,
So I would propose that you could maybe do that.
okay.
I'll make that
Let me
motion
see what his
to refer this back
availability
to
is.
staff.
Okay.
See if we can.
Get someone to come in and give
address
us
this.
some.
I second that.
Mhm. Okay.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All
I'll make a
right.
motion to take item 8 off the table.
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Since we're looking at increases for 2019,
Right.
we've got time to
Right.
put this together. So
But
I'll just make a motion that we hold this item.
I do appreciate your effort on this. all
Should I just
more.
hold it indefinitely until you want it to be brought back, or? should we-
Item
bring it back
8
in
could
like 3
be,
months?
item 8 could be rolled right in with item 9 and taken as
Okay,
one
all
item.
right.
Yes.
I mean, as far as the individual proposals of the amount of the increase on an annual basis, I don't think that that's needed so much as rolling it into consideration of the action of changing the way the administration is and determining salaries.
Right.
All right, okay.
So, again, I want to thank you for your efforts on this. All right, number 10, consideration with possible action on request to approve out-of-state travel for the fleet manager to attend the American Public Works Association National Snow Plow Rodeo. Is that it? Rodeo? Thank you. And Western Snow and Ice Conference in Fort Collins, Colorado, September 25 to 29th of this year at an estimated cost of $125 for meals.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That was a mouthful. Number 11, literally. Consideration with possible action on request to modify the following personnel policies to align with the new city pay plan effective on the first day of the pay period in which December 1st, 2017 occurred. A is Chapter 4, the classification plan, B is Chapter 8, compensation, C is Chapter 9, hours of work and fringe benefits.
Move approval.
Second?
Any other discussion? All in
Yes,
favor? Oh,
question.
Go ahead, yes.
Then I have a question about Chapter 8, specifically on page 8-2. Near the bottom, there's a paragraph that begins, "At the discretion of the Human Resources Director." Follow me?
On 8.2,
8-2.
under 8.3.5,
I'm
or is it under, are you looking at the one
I'm on
with the
page-
strikeouts?
Page 8-2.
Right.
Got that page?
I have 8-2. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and near the bottom, there's a paragraph that starts
Which one?
with "At the discretion of the Human Resources Director."
Oh, no, I just looked at the wrong.
Yeah, maybe I can help.
Director or designated.
Oh, there it is, at the discretion, got it, I found it.
Okay.
I see it, it sticks out in the one with the cross out. I see, oh, that's what you're looking at, okay, gotta go back.
Now,
Hiring.
on that paragraph, it goes on to say, "or based on performance and the recommendation of the department head or designee following employment." My question is, does that involve the Human Resources Director and require the Human Resources Director in both cases to approve that? I want to make sure that the second part of that isn't suggesting that a department can do this independently.
They wouldn't do it independently because we would have to sign it in our office, so there is another catch on it. But I can see where that language could perhaps be, that could perhaps go at, that could be rewritten so that it's clear.
Hmm.
Because I can see where it's a bit confusing.
I'd like to see that happen.
Okay, can we just do that for the final
Yes, that'd
version?
be fine.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second along with that amended language.
Mhm.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes. All right, next we have number 12, update and discussion on firefighter labor negotiations.
I'd like to go into closed session for just it should just take a couple minutes.
All
I'll
right.
move we go into closed
Okay,
session.
Joe, you want to read?
Second?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
You can read.
The committee may convene in closed session pursuant to state statute 19.85, sub 1, sub E, for purposes of deliberating or negotiating public employee contracts for competitive or bargaining reasons. The committee may thereafter reconvene in open session pursuant to state statute 19.5, sub 2, to report the results of the closed session and consider the balance of the agenda.
Thank you. Okay.
I will move to direct staff to proceed as we directed in
That's
closed
fine.
session.
Right.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We're waiting for people, or we'll just move on. Number 13, consideration, okay, we're moving on. Number 13, consideration with possible action on report of routine personnel actions for regular employees.
Move to receive and place on file.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's it. Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you.
I just have to go fill my water bill up here.
All right.
Send a text message real quick and I'll be right back.